I'm always nervous to leave it. It might roll away. There we are.
There we are. We are live. Live. Well, welcome everybody to Monday Night Live.
Yes, the best night of the week.
We are excited to join you. I am Dean Nixon. This is the lovely Kate Simmons with TurningLeaf Health and Wellness out of sunny, beautiful St. George, Utah. As always, the weather report, we are hitting the 115s. And
it's 108 outside.
It's only 108 today.
That's fine. It's just so funny, you guys, too, because literally on the other side of where you are, we have Dean's main window. It's just like, what's the weather today? Partly cloudy.
Partly cloudy. It's not clear blue skies, as Jackie just said. It's not super clear blue skies.
Yes.
That's very true. Hello, Amber.
But it is still hot in the desert.
It is warm. Yes. Well, we are so excited to join you tonight. We have so many great things going on. As always, a lot of you are participating in the soul discovery that Kate has going. So you'll be joining her here in a little bit.
About a half hour.
Half an hour towards that. We've got the value-based parenting that will be coming on, I believe, on the 19th.
Yes.
We're super excited to get that Zoom. It'll be 8-week Zoom course. And so many other. We got level 1 seminar, the Awakening seminar this weekend starting. I think and it's full.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that one's full. So if you missed it, we've got one coming up in October. Mm-hmm. So super stoked, but we want to jump into tonight's topic and to really give it the time that it needs. I think we always find we run short.
We do. And what I love about tonight's topic is it is a viewer-generated question. So once again, I think we come at you with this all fairly often as a reminder that if you have a topic, if you have a question, if you have something going on in your life that you would like Dean and I to chat about on Monday Night Live in an anonymous fashion, of course, go ahead and just DM us or call us up or however you can get a hold of us and say, hey, I would really like for you guys to have a conversation about this. Let's talk about this topic. And we would absolutely love to do that. So I'm stoked for tonight because it is viewer generated.
It is viewer generated. And, as we work every day, as people come in and sit down, they're always bringing to us pieces that they want to work through. And so this is to that end is doing it live so that we can address it. And the topic is how to move out of denial into reality. And how do we move out of denial and how do we move into reality? And it was such a great question that was posed. And it's like, how do we do that? How do you move from this state of or stasis or this state of just being in denial, not recognizing that the things that are going on in your world are either unhealthy or they're uncomfortable or they're not working for you in your life, and move that from a state of denial into a state of reality or into a state of productivity.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I love that it's coming at this point in our societal experience. We've had a number of conversations about this post-pandemic as we are, right?
Yeah.
So it's really apropos that this question is coming in because as we move back into getting back into the work environment. I know a lot of people who've been working at home up until just really recently, where their employers or their companies have said, okay, well, we're going to start transitioning back into this. So even all of that is like back into the reality space, right? And it can be kind of jarring.
Yes.
And it has been really jarring for a lot of people.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of issues that's starting to come to the surface that we've been able to have in denial. Mm-hmm. I think it's been very easy for us as we've said. I love the Zoom thing where people, they got the shirt on, they got the button up going on, and the bottom they got pajamas on, or flip flops and shorts, and that
is the perfect physical representation of being in denial,
and
right? I love that.
Yeah, it's this metaphorical piece of I've been able to stay in the state of denial because what I'm seeing coming across every day as I'm looking every day looks normal and looks okay, but there's this whole level of underneath it all that's not being addressed.
Right.
And so it's this really, as you bring out this point of now we're going live, so to speak. We're going back into the office. We're going back into reality. We're going back into the world. And we're walking out the front door, and I'm like, oh, crud, I still got shorts on.
I'm in my pajama bottoms.
I'm still in my pajama bottoms. and in a lot of ways, it's that way emotionally, where, oh, okay, I'm actually going to be talking to another human being. Mm-hmm. Or, oh, okay, well, this relationship that I've been in out of necessity or because I haven't been able to move out of it is not working. Mm-hmm. And I need to move on beyond this reality, or I need to move on beyond this relationship or this job or whatever the situation is. And as these things are starting to bubble and come to the surface, we need to address them, and mm-hmm. we need to be brave about that.
Yes. Well, can we go here for just a minute? Because I loved when we were kind of just chatting a little bit before we got on camera, talking about how reality, like it's the same for me. Reality oftentimes can come into juxtaposition with the word normal, right? Like what is normal? What is reality? Like, let's kind of get into the definition of reality as we can all commonly define it, I guess.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
And so then when we were just kind of spitballing, you were like, well, reality is very much based on whatever construct you're looking at or the lens that you're looking through the world through.
Right.
Right.
So the reality that, you know, in my experience, the reality that works best for us to step into is the reality of what is working and what is not working, mm-hmm. what is healthy and what is not healthy. I think if we try to step into the reality of what's wrong or what's right, and as we step into that construct, then we struggle mm-hmm. finding answers and finding solutions. Because a lot of times we can justify the heck out of things. Yes. Because when we get into that all or nothing of right or wrong, it's easy to kind of layer it to a point where you can stay in denial. Mm-hmm. And so, well, it's not all wrong. Well, it's not all bad. So I'm going to kind of stick it out, or I'm going to, instead of really kind of cutting it up into pieces and dealing with the pieces mm-hmm. instead of the all, you know, when we get into well, it's not all wrong or it's not all bad. And so I just will stay in it, or I'll just stick it out, or, you know, it could be worse. At least I'm not this person, or I'm not that person. I think that's one of our attractions to reality TV is that, you know, you see these people on reality TV and you're like, well, at least I'm not that person. Right. So I'm not that bad. At least it's not that drug, or at least it's not that food, or mm-hmm. at least I don't look like that. And we get into that all or nothing. But if we step into the reality, which is our reality, because your reality is different than my reality. Mm-hmm. What's healthy for you may not be healthy for me. What's working for you may not work for me. Mm-hmm. But if we step into the reality of what's working or what's healthy, then I can kind of cut things up into pieces. And it's no longer just dealing with the all or nothing of it. Is I can actually look at the pieces of it and go, this part of it isn't working, or this part of it isn't healthy. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, I can either deal with this, I can remove it, I can move through it, I can move past it, or maybe it's affecting the whole, so I need to move through it. But to me, that's truly the answer to mm-hmm. that.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up reality TV, because what a perfect place to see where reality isn't. Yeah. Right? Is in those spaces. And so once again, getting into, like you were saying, Dean, like looking at things in their particular place instead of like the all or nothing aspect of it, and looking at it honestly. Yeah. Like just having the courage to just look at whatever it is that's going on in your life and look at it honestly, yes. right? Make an assessment of it. Yes. We've talked about this a number of times the last few weeks as well, because it's such a beautiful skill to have. In Soul Discovery, we're always talking about looking at it in judgment, but not judgmentally, right? Like looking at it in an assessment through a good lens of judging it without, I know you're like, wait a minute, Kate, where are you going with this? But without applying judgment, right? Like in an analysis form of judge, because we're meant to judge things, right?
But not people.
Not people, absolutely.
Yeah. So if we're looking at things, I can judge whether,
or a problem in my life, right? Like if this isn't working for me, I can look at it to decipher what's working and what's not working.
Correct.
Right.
This part isn't healthy.
Right.
Or this part isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the challenge we run into with judgment is that judgment is a comparison, right? So I've got to compare it to something else. And when we get into the judgment of ourselves or the pieces of our lives, it doesn't work because I can't judge my life compared to your life and really come out equitably. I can't even judge my life today with my life yesterday because that's not even equitable either. Right. Because I'm not the man I was yesterday, and hopefully it's better today. So hopefully
the evolution has been better.
Right. So it's that idea of we can judge. We can use judgment as we start to move ourselves out of denial in the sense of objects or things that we're involved in that are objects or things that aren't human. But once we get into the human aspect of it, that's where we got to use our discerning voice.
Absolutely.
And we got to discern whether this is a healthy thing for me, what part of it isn't healthy, what part of it isn't working. And I think that's what you were saying.
Yes. That's exactly where I was heading. But that honest look at it, right? Like the honest assessment of it.
Right.
And then what we're always working on here is what is it that you're wanting to create and experience?
Yes.
And so is that moving you forward in that reality? Because once again, our realities are different.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I see that too. And I love that part of it is the denial part. It's such a wonderful thing where there was a show. It was a movie, Percy Jackson. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
Right. And there was a segment in one of those Percy Jackson. I can't remember if it's the first or second movie that they put out, but they go into this casino. And I don't know if any of you watching remember it, but they go into this casino and they think they're in this casino for an hour or two. But when they step out of the casino, they realize they've been in there for months and in some cases even years. And I love the metaphor of that because a lot of times the things that we get involved in and the things that we participate in and the relationships that we invest in oftentimes feel like they're moving us forward to a point. But then when we step back into our, quote, reality, we realize how much time has been lost. And we recognize how much we've lost of opportunities and limited. And this is what I see happen a lot with a lot of my clients where they'll come and they'll sit on the couch and we'll start working through things. And they're at a certain point in their life and they're like, well, God, all these opportunities are gone. I can't do these things anymore. I can't participate in these things anymore. I wish I had. And that's, I think, the part of where we have to really pull the pieces of it apart instead of looking at the all or nothing of it. Because there's still pieces that you can participate in. You just have to choose how you're going to participate in them now differently than how you would have participated in them if you had engaged in them right at that specific time, if that makes sense. Hopefully this makes sense.
Yeah, it was making sense to me. And so let's talk then about some of the coping skills that we felt like would be really great to start moving from denial into reality, right? And the first one was moving from. And so when you were speaking just barely about looking at the places where, hey, I can now start taking motion in this particular sector. Sure, it may not look the same or be the same opportunity that I had 10 years ago when I wasn't able to see it and take it or have the courage or be in the position or whatever that looks like for all of us is very different, right?
Right.
But actually moving in the direction that you want to be taking your life.
Right. Yes. And I with that movement piece, I think there's this piece where we have to lay movement alongside of other things to recognize what movement looks like. For me, movement is if you lay it along the sides of numbing out. Going back to that Percy Jackson example, where they were participating in things that gave them the ability to numb out. So am I numbing or am I moving? Am I sitting? And I don't know about you guys, but the worst thing that ever happened, well, it's a sweeping statement. One of the biggest challenges I had was I was introduced to this thing called Reels on Instagram. Whew, man, talk about numbing
A
out.
black hole of
Like
time.
I can get on that thing, and if I'm not careful, I'm sucked in for a good 20 minutes, 30 minutes before I realize that I've spent 20 or 30 minutes in that situation. It reminds me of that Percy Jackson thing where I'm just disconnecting and numbing. I'm in a state of denial because of it. So am I numbing or am I moving? And my movement means I know I'm progressing because I'm in the moment I'm in. I'm engaged in the moment. I'm in my skin, I'm in my body, I'm feeling, I'm breathing, I'm in where I'm at. And then making sure that I'm moving forward in the things that I want to move forward in. And as you brought up is, what am I wanting to create?
Yes.
Am I wanting to create a different career path for myself? Maybe I want to start a different path or a different job. Am I making steps every day to move towards it, or am I stuck on reels, or am I, in the casino in the show? Am I in that state of numbness, or am I moving forward?
Yes, I love that. For me too, a huge piece in movement that this may or may not work for you. I'm just going to share my experience of it. But when I actually get my body moving, like if I exercise, if I go for a walk, it doesn't have to be like this big expression of exercise, right? Like just getting out and going for a walk, it really does help me personally come back to reality.
Yeah.
And it's like a perfect time, especially for me, that walking piece. And I know for a lot of people that I work with, just to go out and just to go for a walk, not really distracted in headphones or a podcast or something, but just being connected to the world, like through nature, and moving my body allows for some of that stuff to work through in my mental space, to see the places that I really could take a really beautiful, healthy risk and move myself forward.
Right. Yeah. Physical movement, emotional movement, educational movement, spiritual movement. Any of the movement that we can put into any of those things in play that move us forward gets us out of that state of denial. The other one that I love that you brought up was the evidence, which is a coping skill, which means that we're looking at the evidence. We're moving forward. We're staying out of the right and wrong construct. We're in the healthy, not healthy, working, not working. What are my results? I take a step forward, and then I look at my results. I take a step forward, I look at my results. I take a step forward, I look at my results. I don't judge them as good or bad, all or nothing. I judge them. I look at them without judgment. I look at them and say, what part worked? What part didn't work? And that helps me using the evidence, using movement, move forward, look at the evidence, and then make the decision, if I'm moving in the direction that I want to be moving in. And you will be guided. I promise you that as you move forward in your life, this universe, this world, your higher power, whatever you want to call it, it wants you to move forward. It needs you to move forward, because the more you move forward, the more it moves forward. So it's conspiring to help you move forward. The more you disconnect, the more that you stay stuck, the more that you stay in the denial or into the reels zone, the more that the universe is put on hold and you're put on hold.
I think another piece about evidence that I find really fascinating sometimes, and I'll just get transparent because you guys know I love authenticity, and that's how I like to play my life. But last week, I was in kind of a stuck space, and so we were able to have a coaching session, you and I. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes it's really difficult for me to actually see my own evidence. And so having someone in your life, like a coach or a friend who loves you and can give you honest, good help without getting critical and analytical, but to help remind you of your evidence, is really a beautiful, beautiful thing to have. And so just publicly, Dean, I'll thank you for being that safe space for me. But that's kind of an interesting piece about us with evidence. Sometimes we're so quick to hang on to all of the places that we suck, right? And we're not living our best life, and we're staying in denial in all those places, when really there's just as much evidence usually to gather about how how you are doing a great job at being you, and you're moving your life forward, and just to be reminded of that. Oftentimes, which is another reason usually when we start to talk about evidence, we talk about like actually writing it down to remind yourself, because you're going to get in those spaces, your downward spiral. You guys know that's how I like to call it. When I'm just in my darkness, spiraling in my head, it's hard for me to remember all of the forward motion that I have and everything that I have actually created, and how if I just take a step back, gather my breath, I can figure out the next step that I need to take in order to move myself continually forward. So either have a place to write it down or have a healthy person to be able to help remind you, oftentimes can also help with that evidence coping skill.
Absolutely. Well, we're there. 20 minutes. We knew it would go quick. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you to the topic suggestion. Yes. Thank you for making the suggestion. Hopefully, you can find some of those answers and give us that feedback. As always, take these conversations to the water cooler, as Kate would say, to the dinner table, to your loved ones. There is nothing more powerful than really sitting down with your family, your loved one, and opening a real, honest, sincere dialogue. And this is a topic you can just take right to it. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate that feedback. We appreciate you all for liking and sharing our videos, and we will see you all next week on
Monday Night Live. Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
You ready? That was a good